Hello everyone, welcome to the St. Louis Chess Club's last Road to 2000 show of the year. As usual, I will be your host, International Master Tianqi Wang. And today, I thought it would be very meaningful to explore the topic of draws. To me, draws are often the misunderstood middle child of chess, which is further exacerbated by mainstream media attempting to cater to the majority audience that have no autonomous intention to progressively become or obtain stronger understandings of chess. I felt that most of the understanding comes from omitting the untold story of why these draws came to be. And for that purpose, today I will show two games where simply realizing the game as a draw does not do the game justice. We should see the mental brilliance from both white and black that made the game memorable, despite the game not ending in a decisive result. So let us move on to the first game. In the first game, I am not entirely sure who played each side, so it will be up to our ever so Holmes rivaling detective Ben Simon to hunt down the players.
I'm on it.
And so the game begins with e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6. A little bit less competitive than knight c6 in nature. However, in recent times, many publications have begun to brand this opening as a sharp resource for black, or in fact for both colors, to fight for the full point. For instance, as we will see here, knight e5 happens. Already there's a book by Kamil Plichta after knight takes e4, but here black plays the principled d6. Knight f3, knight e4. And here white has many ways to continue. If you are two masters in a closed norm tournament and you would like to conserve your energy, one of the best strategies at this moment is to play queen e2, queen e7, d3, knight f6, takes, bishop e2, and offer draw. That would be appropriate at this exact moment. However, it is also possible for white to follow the footsteps of one Fabiano Caruana and play knight c3, with the idea that after knight takes, we will play d takes. We will deploy our bishops in the typical 150 fashion and castle queen side, and hope to serve the black king with the entire kitchen sink. However, white here went for a relatively creative idea, one that I have not had much exposure to. White here opted to play c4 with the similar idea to immediate knight c3. As you can see, compared to the regular knight c3, here perhaps white was not a fan of the idea that black one day will be able to play c6 and d5 and not feel positionally cramped. And so but black continues normally. Bishop e7, knight c3, black accepts, takes, knight c6, bishop d3, knight e5. All very principled chess so far. Knight takes, pawn takes. As you can see, so far both sides have been making a lot of forceful moves. This is rather natural when everybody is fighting for the timings. You want to be exactly ready when your opponent is hurling trick moves at you. And here, let's see, what did white play here? White played queen c2. It is a very sly move in the sense that black is now unable to castle because this pawn will be taken with check. Instead, black here went for a slightly out of the box idea to address this dilemma posed by white with queen c2. What do you think black played here? And so, as it turned out, black realized that perhaps castling kingside has to be scuttled and the king needs to go to c8. However, in order for the black king to successfully find a new home on c8, a few things must be done in the sense that this bishop and this queen must vacate for castling to become legal. However, at the moment, black does not have a good square for the queen. The bishop can naturally move itself to e6. So, black addresses the problem by playing bishop g5, which is a typical maneuver that you will see in some other openings, but the same idea stands that black consciously wants to trade bishop for bishop. This is important because white is typically the offensive side in a Petrov, and taking away the bishop pair would slow down white's momentum, as well as, in some cases, stop white's initiative altogether. So, of course, white will not take the black's bishop because it exactly falls into their hand, that the queen gains access to a active forward anchor square for free. So white castles. Black plays bishop e6, rook e1, bishop takes bishop, rook c1, and now queen g5. White plays rook e3, castles queenside, rook e1, f6. So far, all makes sense. However, here white played b4 in a typical fashion to attack the black king. Here, instead of b4, I felt that white had a slightly better way to reorganize their pieces. So, if you're white, how would you try to address the slight inconvenience surrounding a bishop that is not protected by a pawn, and this queen not being in the most ideal offensive position? Well, when we castle queenside in chess, usually for a brief period of time, the rook pawn will be completely unprotected. And so actually for white, it would be a good opportunity to take advantage of this window by playing queen a4. And here, black is best advised to play king b8 because a6 would put this pawn in the same color as the bishop, which opens white to new possibilities of sabotage involving the bishop charging through these pawns. But after king b8, white now has the option to play bishop e4. And here, black has to think twice before threatening this bishop because black has only one authoritative way to threaten this bishop, which is by pushing this pawn to f5. However, that is not what black wants to do because this pawn is actually doing a perfect job in keeping this e5 pawn company. Okay. So white unfortunately misses his opportunity, goes here. Black is not doing anything out of the ordinary. Black realizes that now nobody has some get-rich-quick way of winning the game. So we stick to the principle and fight for the center, which is also, incidentally, the last of the three natural laws of chess. We already successfully completed the first two by developing pieces and castling. So rook d7, c5, rook hd8. White was clearly not prepared for black to completely ignore their threat, but also at the same time it feels as if white does not really have better options here. So white went for the move c6, which made a lot of sense in terms of positional sabotage, opening lines for white's pieces to attack the black king. And now we take a pause here and we evaluate black's options. How should black respond to this move? And a very important hint is you should pay attention to what color is the bishop. Bishop c4 I just take, right? Rook d3 almost works. I like your idea, but here, this is check. If this was not check, you take the queen and perhaps we have something to speak of. You're on the right track. So actually, it just turns out that we move this rook, but no need for drastic measures. We simply scoot the rook up one square to a square that this bishop cannot touch. And when white takes here, what do we play? play king b8. We play king b8, and we sing the tune of "Can't Touch This" to this bishop on d3. And now white plays a4, bishop d5, rook g3, all very standard procedure. Black has given up a pawn and now has to look for some counterplay. Black plays queen f4. Again, another great move that now the bishop is on d5 and covering the bishop on d5 is covering the f3 square, and the queen can move forward and take some more unclaimed real estate. White plays bishop h7 here. It seems as if white has gone full scholastic mode and does not have concern for the well-being of their king. However, there's actually a serious motive behind bishop takes h7. So, if you're black, what do you think the idea behind bishop h7 is? Why did white play bishop takes pawn h7? What is this under the surface idea beyond just taking a pawn for white? So in other words, taking the pawn is a small idea, and what we're trying to find is the big idea behind white's move. What is white plotting to do next if they get another move?
Taking g7?
Rook g7 can come after the big idea. So as we can see, there is black plays bishop takes pawn. Not necessarily a required thing to do, but it just works off of a convenient timing that now black is threatening to play rook d2 and win the game through this square. Here white is not afraid, so they played h3, rook d2, and now you see white's big idea. White wants to knock the queen off from this active square with queen f5, which you could not do if the bishop was on d3. So when you took the pawn, it was actually to clear space for the white queen to get close to the black queen and alleviate the state of emergency surrounding the white king. However, after white played queen f5, they overlooked black's resources here. And what did black play that increased white's future hospital visits for coronary diseases? So white is fully confident that after the queen trade, black does not have much respite. However, what can black do now? Does black have to trade queens on f5? As it turns out, because the black rook has already made its way to d2, black has option C. Queen takes rook. And now white's only move to not lose the game is to accept the queen, but now this second rank becomes completely free real estate for black. Rook g2, not king h1 because I just go here, or I just play here, and already white is in a lot of trouble because rook h2, rook g2, and rook h1 checkmate. So white finds the best defense, which is king f1. Black goes rook d d2, and now white responds with a minor overreaction, but enough to stop black's threats. What did white play here? Moving the queen might not be a good idea because rook df2 immediately wins. Queen c2 would be a good idea, if not for the fact that two rooks are on here. Okay, we have Sebastian from Twitch. Very good. Rook e4 is in fact white's best try here to hold the position together. The point being that now this rook wedging itself here has cut off communication between the front line rooks and the bishop in the back. So black takes, queen takes, check, king e1, rook a2, king f1, check, rook e2. And now white's only move, queen b1, rook g2 here. And after here, black unfortunately had to admit that they ran out of resources and had to be happy with periodically harassing the queen and the white queen and the white king, and the game ends in a draw because of no progress made / repetition. And so in this case we saw that the draw was not one of those he cannot take the queen, I think. At what moment? I think black never had a chance to take the white queen except here. So you can. It's probably not a good idea to take the queen, because if we do some simple first grade math, we will realize that 6 is a slightly larger number than 5, and if white simply performed some attrition strategy, black will eventually have to wave the white flag against their best wishes. So in this case we saw that black gave a pawn for initiative, and then they gave their queen for some promising attacking prospect that unfortunately ended short because in the opening we saw that before anybody castled, both knights and a pair of bishops for everyone have been simplified off the board. If those simplified minor pieces were alive, perhaps they would have made some statistically significant difference in the outcome of this game. But regardless, we must take our hats off for how both sides handled themselves in this game. And now we will move on to the second game, which is even more famous because at least now I know who played which color. With white plays, is it third or fourth? With white plays fourth world champion Alexander Alekhine, and with black plays one of the strongest players pre-World War II to never become world champion, Richard Reti. And this, I believe, was a game from Vienna, 1920. And so, this game also did not produce a decisive result, but I am very positive if we had our regular club crew of Yasser plus any other commentators, they would still deliver promising and exciting commentary of this game. And so, the game starts e4, e5, same as before. Unfortunately, we have to be happy with symmetrical chess for the most part because modern chess did not really get the fame and deserved growth until many decades later. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, a6, here, knight f6, knight c3, b5, bishop b3, bishop b5. Now, if white just played normally, here, black will play d6, black will castle, and black will play knight d4. And after these moves are played, I think the game will fizzle like a decarbonated cup of soda, and we might see the game end very quickly, and you might start questioning the competency of the club's HR department. But I can assure you, there's no such issue, because here, Alekhine immediately starts the firestorm by playing what move. So, for any people in the chat who has been a part of scholastic chess, why do your coaches get upset when in this position they see you with the white pieces play this move? What resource does white allow black to play here? Knight e4, very good. The center fork, very good. So now we go back to our game. Alekhine played knight e5 here, immediately beginning a giant chain of chaos. Knight takes, d4, bishop d6, takes, takes, and now white plays f4. True to the somewhat aggressive nature attached to his name, white immediately puts question on this bishop who ostensibly found a high value anchoring square in the center. How should black respond to white warmongering moves? Sebastian, to answer your question, it seems that this is playable. However, the side with the king over here always seems to do extremely well in the end, because the side with more knights just lost way too much real estate in the center to go for this tactical combination. So it makes more sense to just go here. And Egan here says check. What do you mean check? What black plays here? Bishop takes knight. Very good. It is in fact also black's only move here, because as the famous saying always tells us, fortune favors the brave. When you do not play with the right amount of cojones, this happens and you lose the game. So bishop c3 takes, and now we do what Superman Moga tells us is to castle. White plays e5, making a lot of sense that now black is operating without this dark square bishop, and also looking like that this knight has no good places to go. However, Reti was not phased, and he soon found an equally powerful move that made Alekhine think twice about his aggressions in the center. What did black play here? How can black stand their ground? If we play d6, then white just takes the knight, and I think we are having some issues with less pieces. And Sebas, what is your idea if I just take the knight? Followed by c4. Or I mean, you can just play c4 immediately. But okay, that's okay. That's the that's the right idea. You do play c5. 98. Unfortunately, I think you're giving up way too much real estate. There's already bishop a3. I don't know. So in fact, black's best move is to preach Hammurabi's law. You take the knight, I trap your bishop. Simple as that. And white played bishop a3 here. So now perhaps we're in some more danger now because we are unable to move our pawn on c5. But as usual, you're going to hear me say this more than once throughout this show, that black was not phased, and they promptly find the best response against bishop a3, which was very good, Alekhine. It is queen a5. So now black provokes white to take the pawn, except it will totally not work because check, and we pick up this bishop. So in this case, white had to, well, in some way you could say white went for broke, just took this knight. Queen a3. Oh, actually, no, sorry. That is not what happened. I flipped the moves. White played castles, queen a3, takes, and c4. Nope. Looks like our world champion has made a miscalculation, and now he has to make do with one less bishop in the game. However, we know that at a top level, such thing does not exist. So, what counter-attacking effort did Alekhine launch here? He saw the problem with this tension and this rook, and so he played queen d5. Oh, looks like now the hot potato is in black's hands, because if we simply move the rook, there's queen g5. And black has to more or less give up. But once again, black is not fazed by white's threats, and black stayed calm and found the best move. What did black find here? Bishop b7. Are you sure this is not just... Are you sure white is not winning after queen g5? Chess pawn 0-1. Imagine in some kind of ball sports, you had an aggressive forward that was so close to scoring the goal, but completely fumbles near the finish line, and now your team is frantically calling for this forward person to sprint back to form a defensive line. In this case, how did black execute the maneuver as I have described it? X Alden, X, moving the rook loses because queen g5, and white will just stick the queen on g7 and win the game. So in black's position, who is this forward player that you desperately want to call back to help you forge defense because you fumbled the ball and now you're on the defense? We want our queen back to contribute to the defense, but how? How can we add the queen to the equation and foil white's plot? Queen d6 is not possible because we will just take. If you play pawn d6, I will play queen g5. And black is losing again. As it turns out, we can completely ignore this rook by playing queen a5. Sleep darty, rook e8, queen f8, I agree should have been the answer, but then losing this rook will actually matter. In this case, black is totally well from hanging the rook because we can play check. We'll play check, rook f2 and bishop b7. And in fact, we are going to win the game after here and here because this bishop is trapped. So, in fact, white should keep their hands off of this rook on a8. Queen g5, unfortunately, is also thwarted because of check, and we take this pawn. So, white played f takes pawn, check, and here. However, because the black queen is on b6 now, white can defy all expectations by playing what move? Queen g5, I think black will just play queen g6, and actually white is in a lot of trouble here. Rook f3 is also a good idea, but black will just play bishop b7 and f6. And white again is in a lot of trouble. So as it turns out, because black is still hanging this rook, and because this queen is here, we can just bash our head. We can just ask our bishop to bash its head against the wall because we realize the wall is made out of A4 printing papers, not concrete. So now I will demonstrate why this is not working, because now when black goes for the same contraption, white is rook a b1. And black's trap completely disintegrates after we trade rooks. However, black was not concerned about losing a pawn, so they just developed their bishop. Queen e5, queen f6, bishop d3, rook e8. Okay, so normal stuff. Now queen h5, h6, queen g4, king h8, queen d7, rook e7, queen d4. Actually, before I move on, I wanted to quickly show you an alternate universe where white became too greedy and took the pawn h7. This unfortunately is not advised because we have rook e2, and now we have And now it is not clear how white intends to stop the rook from going to h3 and taking on h2, causing mass havoc in white's position. So queen h5, h6, queen g4, king h8, queen there. Okay, no, not that. So now white is 2 pawns up, but unfortunately white will soon have to give up 1 pawn back because of their relatively passive rooks. And also this bishop is more passive than the one on b7. So let's see how black mitigated the pawn deficit. Rook a d8, simple enough. f5, f6. Important that white does not have a pawn on f6, which causes checkmating threats later. Rook a e1, rook g7, rook e6, king g7, rook a6, rook c4, rook f3, rook c2. And here I decided to cut here as at this point the margin of winning for white has already become very small, and as expected, Reti successfully made a draw by simplifying everything except white's h-pawn, and made a draw around move 60 something. And that concludes our last Road to 2000 show for this 2024 year. I hope that in my relatively transient tenure teaching this class, I have brought to you many things of value that you're able to apply to your own games, and I hope to continue to do so in the new year. Thank you, everyone.